I'm a songster, playing my songs for you. I'm a songster, any old style will do.
So, my understanding is that a few people came here tonight to find out more about me. Well, I'll do that. Play with it, Jeff. Play with it. Play with it. Well, I'm 58 years old, so it's kind of a long story. Hear from me. Hear it out there, because they're going to tell you some things about me out there if you ask about me. And most of it is probably going to be true. It'll just hit you a little less hard if you hear from me. Feel what I'm saying? So, music is the answer, is what we believe, has kept me together all this time. I used to take a hit, but now I do this. But believe me when I tell you, I used to take a hit. And I would turn the music off because I'd be scared, frightened, paranoid, and a mess, and addicted. Oh yeah. Freehold Intermediate Middle School, and I was under the thing. I was playing records, and I was under the influence of music at all times. I started buying records when I was like 5 years old. Decided I wanted to sing. Temptations had a song out called "Just My Imagination." Tom Jones was on TV with the big sleeves and stuff, big collars. Got me some brothers together, David Norman, Sylvester Wise. I'm gonna have them as my background singers. I'm gonna play the song like they do karaoke now. I'm gonna play it real low, and I'm gonna sing to Eddie Kendrick's part of the Temptations. We practiced. We got some big pink shirts and some hats, baby, and learned some steps. We hit the stage. Now Sylvester was a singing ass, but he was also the class clown. So when Sylvester hit his part, every night on my knees I prayed. When he hit the floor and performed, he did it really well. But being that he was the class clown, the crowd fell out laughing. I was not happy about this. This is all true stuff. I cried right there on stage. They messed my song up, man. So, one of the coaches, basketball coaches, he had a thing called a barbershop quartet. And I joined the barbershop quartet, and I joined the vocal class. And I decided next year, I'm going to sing my own song. I don't need Sylvester, I don't need nobody else. And I picked this song right here. People make the world go round by the stylistics. Well, I didn't win. Eddie Chester's brother Joey Chester and Vincent Wright sang this song, say, I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. They sang the hell out of it. But I still think they only won because they was white. Second place was Elise Jackson, Dawn Everett, and Wanda Peace sang Bet You By Golly Wow. They rocked it. But they only won the contest because they was prettier than me. I stand by that right now. I did win third place. My reward, though, is that was 1973. It is now 2019, and I'm standing here in front of y'all singing that same song. And I've been through some things since then, and none of them ain't singing nothing. They fat, horny, and strung out. Oh yeah. Here we go. Trash man didn't get my trash today. Once more, play. Bosses on strike wanna raise the fare, so make it up for Louis. Oh, what drives what makes this world go round? The ups and downs. Changing people head around, going around young men. People make the world go round. And Wall Street's losing out every share. They're blaming it on my long hair. The big man smoking in his easy chair on a fast cigar, and he don't even care. Oh, what drives what makes this world go round? The ups and downs carousel, changing people head around, going around young men. People like you make the world go round. Now thank y'all for coming out to hear what I got to say tonight. People make the world. People make the world go round. Thank you.
Joe Keys and the Late Bloomer Band. So, folks, thank you for coming to the Songster series. I like to start things off just letting you know about the concept of the show. Way back in, I believe, May of 2017, we had a guy here from Tacoma Park, Maryland, right outside of D.C. His name is Warner Williams. And Warner, it is said, is one of the last of what might be called songsters. What are songsters? Songsters are people that sing and perform songs. Sometimes that joke doesn't go over. I'm learning you got to give it some time.
Okay.
And it'll come around. Like a lot of things in life. But in any case, so back in the day, if you wanted to hear a song, you had a particular song in your head that you just really needed to hear. You couldn't go to the radio, and you couldn't go to Spotify, and you couldn't go to your CD player, and you couldn't go to the jukebox or anything like that. If you wanted to hear a song, somebody had to play it for you, or people on the streets, that you give them some money in the hat, and they knew it, and they knew a wide range of songs. And and you may think that this is new information, or you may be learning about new people, but you may not be. A lot of people from, or I don't know, depends on how many people you know from before the 30s, but but basically, if you were a musician, it was your business to know a wide range of songs. But when the record labels came along and some other people, they said, no, we just want you to play country, and we want you to play the blues. And you might look up and be sophisticated enough to call yourself jazz. But that's how we programmed ourselves to think of genres being attached to people for usually racial reasons, because that's how we attach everything in this country and around the world. But in any case, I argue that there are songsters around us all the time, and whether you know it or not, there's a wide range of influences that go into each and every great artist. We certainly have lots of great artists around here in the Baltimore metropolitan area, people like Joe KEYES. Glad to have you here. How you doing? Yeah. So let's start with that song right there. So the story you were telling was about a Temptations song. What Temptations song was that?
Just My Imagination.
Just My Imagination. So how old were you when...
12 years old.
You were 12 years old, you were up on stage, you were ready.
I was ready.
And nobody else was ready for you.
Everybody was ready, but I had a jokester in my band. That's really what happened. The crowd was ready, I was ready. But I had a jokester in the band, and, young people, they hard on you, man. So if you got a jokester in the band, he's getting laughed at even if he's good. But I wasn't, it wasn't a comedy act. I wanted an applaud, not a laugh.
Yeah.
I had a problem with that. Plus, I was young and soft, so I cried.
And that's okay. It takes a big man to cry.
I was big, too.
So that was sort of your first, or one of your first performing memories. Yeah. And it turned out not to be so good, but it didn't discourage you. You kept on going.
Before that, my performing memory actually was dancing for the old people at the parade and stuff. I had a little portable record player. I would take the 45 and go ahead and dance. I dance and they give me money.
Okay.
That kept me dancing.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I wish it was like that now.
Same.
I like to dance. I like money. So you're not from around these parts. We're going to get to how you got here, but where are you from?
I'm from Freehold, New Jersey, born and raised.
Freehold, New Jersey, which happened. Hey, we got some Freehold people? Are you from Freehold? Oh, okay. What? Well, what's a Freehold?
I am from Freehold, New Jersey, home of Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I lived around the corner from you.
It was a small neighborhood, so around the corner was real easy.
But there was some interesting music going around, at least when you get to like Asbury Park and stuff like that.
Isley Brothers came from New Jersey. Cool in the Gang, Parliament Funkadelic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
5 Stair Steps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Moments, the Delphonic.
Now you got to know some of these people, right? At a young age.
At a very young age.
How'd that happen?
Well, all my cousins and people were into band. You know, everybody had instruments and everybody sang. Back then they were singing on the corner and gambling. I was hanging out with people I had no business hanging out with, but that's what attracted me. The guys would be always washing their cars, shooting dice and stuff, and they were just regular guys, and they'd be singing these songs that I found out that were other people's songs. So I wanted to meet the people who sang. So I would find out where they rehearsed and get my cousins to take me to their rehearsals and stuff. You know.
Oh, wow. How old were you started doing that?
9.
Oh, okay. So this is before the DJ thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get there. So you must have dug the Temptations when you were coming up to get up on stage and do Just My Imagination.
That was right about the time, actually. I didn't do Motown.
Yeah.
That was right about the time I got into the Temptations. Today, that's not one of my favorite Temptations songs. I'm more of a psychedelic Temptation. I like Motown after they start doing drugs.
Well, come on, man.
I appreciated all the stuff they did. It was great. Smokey Robinson and all that was cool. Don't get me wrong, it was cool. But me personally, it didn't really grab me until they got funky. When they went from the suits to the dashikis, I was with it. I wasn't with the suit thing.
I hear that. So when you were coming up, what you're alluding to is kind of like a shift in attitude. We're going from like a lot of black music artists were trying to cross over, and then there's a new thing coming in where people are not trying to cross over at all.
Black Power.
Black Power thing started happening, and that's what was
I was
catching
with
you.
that. I was the militant midget.
Yeah. How long did you stay a midget? Not long.
I had my fist in the air like 6 years old. I was running around talking that crazy stuff. My parents were scared. Oh my God, we got a rebel. That's just how it went. I just wasn't with Bugs Bunny and all that. I was with Huey Newton.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
You're a serious kid.
I was real serious. I was.
All right. Well, so yeah, you had those influences going on TV and on the radio. You were checking out like James Brown, people like that, getting into that business. But you were also influenced by some strong preachers in the area. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
I was. We all had to go to church when we was kids. Even with sports, I just love music, man. So it wasn't happening for me till the music started. You know, the delivery in the Bible was cool, and I heard some of the laws and the rules and regulations. But it didn't really start till Reverend Malcolm Steele started stomping. And when he was stomping, and I recognized the way, like, the keyboard player would follow him. Old lady, Miss Wilma Ham, she played funerals the other day. She still played keyboard. Miss Ham, Reverend Steele would say, "Ha!" And she would, man, whoa. Be like, that's what I'm talking about. Ha! They start clapping, so he was like a James Brown, man, off the top, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he would hop around, I was like, yeah! That's when I'd be like, yeah! You know? My mother would be like, calm down. Sit down, boy.
What denomination?
Methodist.
Okay.
Methodist church. Mm-hmm. My parents were married in Baptist church, but it was the Methodist church that I grew up in.
All right.
At that time, it was considered, the Methodist church was a little more upper crust. They thought, it's foolish thinking, but that's what it was. You know, the Baptist church was down low, and a little grimier. That's where the funk was, they say, because it was grimy. But the uppity crust was Methodist. I don't go to none of them now. I'm just telling you how I was raised to think.
Right. With the context of...
And the way they dressed, the whole nine, the whole mess. You couldn't even go in the Methodist church with no raggedy pants on.
Oh, man.
It was bad. That side, too.
My dad's church, Baptist church, you can't have just anything on in there. You'll get talked about anyway. Or
crazy, ain't it?
Or they'll do
Jesus
something nice
so
for you
raggedy.
and buy a bunch of suits so you never have to look that way again in church.
That's okay. They ain't buy me no suit.
Yeah. So when you were perking up when they started playing some gospel music. Absolutely. They were playing like Old school hymns.
Old school, they would come in, we come this far by faith, and they'd be rocking. They had because back then the choir would march in. Now you go into church, the choir's already sitting down. But back then, the choirs always marched in. They marched in, they had a rock with them, it was coordinated, They robes, like, it was fun.
Yeah.
Like, it was dressed like this.
And they're kind of like, it's a serious time, but it's also entertaining. It's also
Very entertaining.
Yeah.
I wasn't that serious. I was more entertained.
Yeah. Helps you to come back next week.
It does.
Yeah. And get the whatever message that they're trying to put across. So we were talking, and you were saying how you love band leaders, and Reverend Malcolm Steele was like one of the first band leaders that you saw that was, that was really a great influence on you. But as you were out just checking stuff out, you started to listen to some other things, and you started to get some control over what was played in certain places. Talk about that.
I was recognized at a very young age. Some people called me a prodigy or whatever. My father was the person who changed the records, the 45, the jukebox at the Elks Club. And I would always get all the old records. I was always the kid who wanted to be different.
So when they changed out the jukebox,
I would
you got to keep all the old ones that were taken out.
And what I would do, because all the hits was already done, so I would listen to the flip side. So that would make me the guy who knew the songs better than everybody.
Yeah.
Because everybody already knew the hits. But I listened to the flip side to find out what the band was about. A lot of times, even when you saw like the Ed Sullivan Show and the Mike Douglas Show and some of those big variety shows back then, they would always play their hit song. You come on stage, you play your hit, that's how you sell your record. For me, I didn't really... some of the hits were good, but I just was so wanting to be different.
Yeah.
That's really what it came. I just wanted to be different than everybody. So I just didn't... My band plays covers, but we try not to play the hits. That kind of thing. I listened, you talking about the band leaders. All the talk shows back then had bands. Even daytime shows had bands. Everybody had the bands. All had bands. Your guys, your big entertainers, your Cab Callaways, all those people, your Count Basies. You had band leaders. Even people who played Count Basie was the Count Basie Orchestra. So you still concentrate on him. And you could watch him lead his band with head stuff. I would watch him. They would pay so much attention to him. And I would notice the vibe that they would create. So I was attracted to it right away. Same thing with James Brown, all the band leaders back then. It was different. Then when bands got real popular, pretty much after James Brown and George Clinton came, everybody was just bands. There was no front man, really. There was no conductor. I didn't really care for classical music. I love it now, but I love the way the cat was doing this. You know what I mean? I used to like that because I just noticed how I like the interaction.
Yeah.
The music stopped making sense to people because it started becoming, there was a new art form coming, and that buzz. And nobody really wanted to admit that it really wasn't jazz anymore. That's what happened. The bands were being influenced by funk bands. Miles was being influenced by Sly and the Family Stone, and they were mixing classical stuff. And then Coleman was finding notes that other musicians said it didn't exist. And he's like, well, I'm blowing it, so it must exist. And everybody wasn't ready for it. And if everybody wasn't ready for it, that means I was ready for it. I'll tell you again, The main reason I got into it is because it was different. It had some kind of weight to my heart and to my ears, just simply for being different. Does that make it better than anything? No, but it does make it different. Hold on a second. Bring it up. supposed to be listening to. Why not be listening to the Archies and all that stuff that was out at the time? This is what caught my head. This is who I am.
Yeah, a lot of things come to mind while I was listening to that, or we can just circle back.
I was one of the first people documented in New Jersey to play with two turntables. This was long before hip-hop and all this stuff. I was also one of the first teenagers documented to have dreadlocks, by the way. Because when I was coming up, you had dreadlocks, you had to hide them from your mother. You couldn't be telling your mother you don't comb your head. That's just not, no, that's out. So I talked my father into buying me a couple turntables. But you know, I come from that family. I ain't got no money to get no turntable, so he bought me a lawnmower. So I could go out and buy records and stuff and make my own money because my record habit started getting a little big outside of the 45. So I became the kid who was known to play different music. Some of the guys, the guys, you know, everybody was high. So they wanted to hear some different stuff. And I was known as the kid who, if you hire him, you're going to hear some different shit. Low keys, man. Low keys be playing some different shit, man. You know, man, he be on it, man. So my father would have to have an escort. I had to have one of my family members, one of the elders, because I didn't have any brothers. So one of the older brothers in the neighborhood would have to take me to the party, would have to go get permission from my dad and my mother. Please let him play. He's bad as hell. But they pay me. They pay me well. They pay me more than I make now. They really did. They paid well. And I played for Elks Clubs, American Legions. House parties was real big back then. We had garage turntables. I bought a battery-operated mixer, and I learned how to splice the wires with the turntables and get them to do the mix. Not scratching like these guys do.
You couldn't go to a store and buy
Nah, I didn't have no
DJ
mixer.
mixer.
No. I bought a battery-operated mic mixer.
And made a mixer yourself.
Made a mixer myself. And began, I started playing the proms. I played all the proms in the county. I started playing what they call the cotillion, which is an all-black debutante ball. I played the cotillions, all that stuff, all the way up through high school.
How'd you start using 2 turntables at one time? Because that's something.
Splice the wires.
But how'd you figure that out? How was the word getting out about that? Or you just did it?
A couple electricians in my family. Man, how I do this, man? You put your wires together. That's how you do it. It was just that simple.
You hadn't heard of anybody else doing it?
Nope. I'm telling you, I'm supposed to have been one of the first kids that ever done it. That's what they say.
Great success. That's dope, man.
This was not making beats and all that stuff. Like people think a DJ is making beats for a rapper or something. This was to make people dance or to make. I had this thing where I learned how to set a mood. You know what I mean? Black lights was out. You learned how to burn candles. Hippie thing was still big. Incense. So I grew up kind of fast.
Yeah. And you had some people in the neighborhood that were feeding you
Absolutely.
more and more. And there was one guy named Richard Hurt.
Richard Hurt was the man. God bless his soul. Richard Hurt was the man. Richard Hurt's father, I don't know if you ever heard of the Englishtown auction in Englishtown, New Jersey, right near Raceway Park. Englishtown auction is actually one of the biggest auctions in the world, flea markets. Mr. Hurt, Richard Hurt Sr., had one of the largest hubcap stands in the world. Seriously. Probably most of them were stolen. Just saying. They both dead. It's okay. But Richard Hurt, Mr. Hurt's son, was like, he was like a Stanley Crouch type of guy. He was like a jazz critic in town, and he was the man. He was just the guy. He would ride around town all day long, back and forth across town, playing music in his car, setting turntables out, like the little battery-operated turntables, playing music. And he saw that I had an interest. When I started hanging hubcaps with Mr. Hurt, I got a job with him. I started hanging hubcaps, and I would talk to Richard and pick his head. Then after I worked, next thing you know, I'm spending the night at Richard Hurt's house, playing all his records and all this stuff. And he took me to see Art Blakey. He took me to the Village Gate. He took me to the Village Vanguard. He took me on his wing. I was like 13 years old.
These are like legendary
These
jazz
cats,
spots.
yes, sir. Legendary jazz spot. Jay Mumford across the street from me, he was a drunk, but he was my big brother. He would get drunk and say, "Come here, boy," and help me do my homework. See, people didn't know that about Jay. They just thought he was drunk. Jay was a good cat. He helped me do my homework, man. He was a real big brother. And why he helped me do my homework? We'd be playing them records, them slow jams and stuff, talking mess about the gals, screaming out the window, "Go ahead, girl!" Seriously, Jay Mumford was a player, a wino player, because he complimented every gal that walked down the street, and he have a slow song that he would direct toward them. All those slow. These kids now, they don't even slow dance, man. These kids in my band don't slow dance.
That's not true, is it, guys? Don't answer that.
They don't slow dance. They don't put no slow songs on at their party. Man, we used to put the slow songs on, and like my dad, my father didn't fast dance. My mother was a very attractive lady, and the guys want to dance. Get down. I be DJing. Mommy, getting down. As soon as the slow song come on, my father come up to the microphone. Hey! He grabbed my mic. That's my woman. No slow dancing for you. It was just a different kind of thing, man.
Mike has power, man. I dig it, man. So there were some musicians around the area, other than Bruce Springsteen. There was a guy named Gerard.
Gerard Tag Mays. God bless him. He turned me on to music the way I listen to it to this day. I can say that about this brother. He played guitar. he went to private school. He was a super duper intelligent cat. He's a West Point graduate. He's an introvert kind of cat, but boy, did he had a record collection as well. And our parents went to the same church, and the candy store was next to his family house too. So I go over there get candy for my church money. I was supposed to give to the church, but I, go get candy with it instead. And I go over his house, and he would venture me off into a lot of different stuff. Gerard went to Rutgers, and he started taking me to concerts at Rutgers and seeing people like Gil-Scott, Heron, and Chick Corea and all these people. But I had this knack for getting backstage. I had a lot of weed and drugs on me too back then, so it was kind of easy. I'm just saying, it was kind of easy to get backstage if you had some goodies. And I would work that magic, I learned how to work the magic back then. And I would get into parties that other people couldn't get in. I just had a way. But when I get in there, these people, I also tried not to be an obsessed fan when I got in these places. So when I get in there, though, I just wanted to chill with these people and pick their heads. I just wanted to talk to them. I tell you a story. One time in California, I never met James Brown. I've never been to a James Brown concert. But I did pee next to him one time. And, James Brown, I seen him go in the bathroom. He was at this club. And I said, fuck that. I'm getting ready to go pee next to James Brown. And I went in there, and I stood right next to him. I said, God damn, I'm peeing next to James Brown. He said, God damn, James Brown can't even take a piss. So that was my James Brown encounter.
Did he actually call himself James Brown?
Yeah, he said, God damn, I'm quoting him. He said, God damn, James Brown can't even take a piss.
Oh, man, that should have been a song. He could have made a song out of that.
So, yeah, it was, those guys, man, my mother used to say I had my own adoption agency. Those guys, I went out and I handpicked big brothers. I did not have any big brothers. Somewhere when I started getting some therapy and almost lost my mind, I found out that big brothers is what I was missing. I was a void. So I went out and I tried to fill that void. And I filled it through music. I met all the cats who played guitars, if you sang, whatever, that was my attraction to you. But you had to be cool with my parents. I would show them where all the concerts was. I would take them record shopping. They knew that this little motherfucker, he know. Gerard, I would wind up turning him on to music. You know what I'm saying? It just happened.
And as you were meeting these people, especially like area groups like we were just talking about the Five Stair Steps and the Isley Brothers, people like that, they start getting hip that you're playing the other sides. You're playing the stuff that nobody else is playing. So they start giving you stuff to play, right?
They would give me demos to play at the parties and stuff like that.
They gave you demos?
They'd give me cassette demos, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're
their
literally
practice.
Playing stuff that
I'm playing their practice songs, yeah.
That nobody else is playing. You still got any of that stuff, man? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're hitting funk hard, and it sounds like you were hitting jazz hard, like straight ahead jazz. But then there's what they call the new thing was starting to come around.
My mother and father came home from the Fillmore in New York City, which at the time, I'm sorry. Oh, I forgot the name. It's underneath Madison Square Garden. The Felt Forum, it was called back then, the Felt Forum. My mother and father come home from the Felt Forum, and the Miles Davis Bitches Brew album had just come out, and I loved the album cover, and they went to see him, and they came back really upset with Miles. He was turning his back. He was doing everything they thought was wrong. That's when I started liking Miles. And that's what happened. The straight ahead jazz stuff was cool, but my parents listened to it too much. The fellas really wasn't listening to that because the fellas was, they were listening to electric stuff more, or the slow songs. My parents were listening. At the time, jazz was thought of as old people's music. until it became electric. The straight ahead jazz, it was good, don't get me wrong, but it was thought of as old people. It wasn't hip. It wasn't hip no more. It didn't get hip no more till Miles put out Bitches Brew and the album covers start being all colorful and stuff. Till they start getting high.
Let me tell you, man, they were high the whole time.
Yeah, they were high the whole time.
Some of them. I shouldn't say that about everybody. So Miles was going in a new direction that had less form to it. Ornate Coleman was another guy that was going in to what they call the avant-garde directions. So I wonder if you could talk about that and kind of lead us into where we're headed here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when we introduce this song, we introduce it as our Thursday song. Thursday being that day before Friday. Thursday being that day that you may have some chicken, but you ain't got no flour, and you want fried chicken. Baked chicken just won't do. Thursday is that day you got some rolling paper, but you ain't got no weed. Thursday is the day before payday. Somebody understands that as well. You have to embrace that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you fucked up. You ain't do the right thing with your money. And now you waiting for Friday. Thursday can be the longest day in the world. So, one thing you have that you can depend on when I was coming up is the radio. You know, you turn the radio on, you feel a little pain, turn down this end, some old stupid stuff on, and you turn on some old stupid stuff on, then you turn, you hit WBLS, New York City. You hear that groove. You're like, oh yeah, that's my jam right there, boy. You know what I'm saying? And when you hear your jam, you can get through Thursday. When you hear the music that you need, all of a sudden, you're not so hungry anymore. All of a sudden, you're not in so much pain anymore. So you depend on people like Lady Day, John Coltrane, whoever your heroes are. That's when you hear that sound that gets you through Thursday. Keys was a late bloomer band, folks.
So that stuff was happening, and at the same time, you're DJing, you're playing parties, but you're also attending parties
And a lot of concerts.
and a lot of concerts.
I was doing what I call going to school.
Yeah. We didn't mention Fela. Did you see
I did see Fela.
Fela?
Twice.
Wow. Where'd you see him?
Fillmore in San Francisco.
Okay. Wow.
I did. I have a picture of my mother in Fela.
What?
Yeah.
Your mom was...
Mom came to visit me in San Francisco. We went to see Fela. Got backstage.
You can't say your parents were pretty cool.
I didn't say it wasn't. My mother was cooler. My father didn't come. My father wouldn't have liked coming because Fela was a flirt. Daddy ain't play that shit. He had 23 wives, dog. You know he had to be a flirt.
Yeah. He was hoping for 24.
23 wives, you gotta be a little flirtatious. In one sermon.
There's a lot of skills I think you have to have. I wouldn't talk about that, man. I was
No.
you gotta negotiate.
Let me tell you something. Now, I'll tell the story real quick. I attended an interview that fella was doing. And he came in the interview with skimpies on, Speedos. That was it. He bust up in there with skimpies talking to him. And the guy, this is the truth. I was there. The interviewer says, we can move on, but I don't mind telling the stories. The guy on the truth. Backstage at the Fillmore in San Francisco. Billy Graham, God bless his soul, was sitting right by me. The interviewer's talking to fella in
Billy Graham, the televangelist, Billy Graham?
No, the promoter that promoted Woodstock and all that.
Oh, right.
No.
I'm sorry, John.
Bill Graham.
Bill Graham.
Yeah, Bill Graham.
Bill
He
Graham
wasn't really
is
Billy.
different from Billy Graham.
Yes. So the interviewer says to fella, 23 wives, man, how do you do it? How do you do it? Fella dropped his Speedos. And something like this big fell out of his pants.
Now that is not what I was talking.
He said, this is how I do it. This is how I do it. I said, wow, this brother is deep. That's what I said. He was holding and he bragged. This is how I do it.
It was done that way. Okay. So anyway, so eventually, so you start going from New Jersey to New York, and there's lots of cool dance music.
Dance music was happening.
That's starting to happen.
The disco scene had kind of just was right ending really. It was going back to the funk was coming a little bit more.
It was ending when you started going.
When I started going to New York, yeah.
Okay.
So because when I started, discos was really mid-70s. I started going to New York. I turned 18 in 1978. So I started going to New York around when I was 16. Because I was tall or whatever, and I could hang out. And I had drugs. You can hang out and you got drugs back then. Drugs are not cool anymore, but damn it, in 1976, they was cool as hell. You were somebody if you had some drugs in 1976. Not too cool now, I don't advise it. If you didn't do the drug thing, you missed out. You missed out. Just missed out. Don't start now. That era's over. But, so yeah, I would go into the clubs because in New York City, I lived in New Jersey and I lived 1 hour outside New York. In New York City, the clubs closed at 4. That means after hours started at 4. And yeah, after hours started at 4, bro. We would leave Jersey at 2 in the morning, take the last 2 o'clock bus into New York, get there at 3, and get to the loft or the Paradise Garage at 4. There'd be a line to get in. Stay till like 10 in the morning. And dance and sing and the music was so uplifting and so positive, and singers, and we're talking about frontmen, were big. It wasn't so much now, it became, when house music came out later, it became instrumental a lot. But back then, the music, the singers, the Teddy Pendergrasses, the Colonel Abrams, these guys, D-Train, Bernard Fowler, who's now touring with the Rolling Stones and is doing the David Bowie tribute all the time. And these people were on the front line. Patti LaBelle would come on stage at 5 in the morning. Grace Jones would come on at 5 in the morning. The shows, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. These people, Madonna, she got her start in these clubs. They would come on. With the Breakfast Club. When her first album came out, it started there.
Reggie Lewis.
No, that was before him.
Before him.
Mm-hmm. Before Reggie Lucas. You're talking about, yeah, before Reggie Lucas, yeah. Yeah, he was just passed away. And the punk scene was happening then. The punk, Parliament Funkadelic had started to fall apart. Bob Marley had just died. So some of the reggae and like my favorite white rock band was The Clash. Because The Clash had that reggae thing happening. The reggae was the new funk. And people were starting to dance again. Like really dancing. And people were starting to mix more. The clubs, there was a lot of Latins in the clubs, a lot of gays and straights mixing. People was just partying. The dance floor was the place to be. But before that, before going dancing, you would go once again to the jazz clubs, whoever, because you know if Gil-Scott Heron was playing, you might leave stage at 2 in the morning. Or P-Funk played the Ritz, or Kid Creole and the Coconuts, and all these people that played, they played late back then. They played late. It wasn't no get out the show at 10 o'clock. You go in at 11 o'clock. Yeah, concerts were late. You can get out Madison Square Garden at 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and then you leave there and go to the garage and dance till noon. Go to Washington Square.
Drugs
were flowing, bro.
Yeah, man.
That's what you did.
It must have been working.
So the underground scene at the time, for me, was run by a brother by the name of Joseph Bowie, who had a band called Defunct, who where Vernon Reid from Living Colour came from, and started the Black Rock Coalition in New York City, and all this stuff. And I used to watch Joseph Bowie, and he was a trombone player, and he was the front men were back when I watched him. This brother, and long story short, Joe Bowie, after years later, I met him, and he had gotten himself clean from heroin, and he helped me to get off the crack cocaine, and now all the instruments at my house is from that band, Defunct. His brother passed away, Byron Bowie, and he donated his whole stuff that he had here in the United States to the Late Bloomer Band, and we play on those instruments to this day. And since I met Joe Bowie, I've known him for 10 years, but 5 years ago he started helping me get off of drugs, and I've been sober for 4 years now.
Yeah. Give it up for that. That's a beautiful thing, man. Did he encourage you to start getting your own band together?
I was in a few bands. This band RTZ when I moved to Maryland, and I was in the Clones of Funk, and there was a lot of I was too much.
Funk was a P-Funk cover
P-Funk cover band. Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Still very good to this day. Mm-hmm. But I became their front man. George Clinton had me put in the Clones of Funk. George Clinton found out I was living in Maryland, and he told these guys, like, listen, man, that's who should play me right there. So that's a lot. I'm a lot. I'm 6'5", I'm 250 pounds. Back then I was really high all the time. So that was a lot to deal with. So Joe Bowie said to me, you're going to have to get your own shit, man. Maybe you should start meeting some of them kids up there where you live at or something. I met Mark Shapiro over there and Dave Cavalier, and 60 people later, I got these people.
That's beautiful. You guys sound great, by the way. Yeah, give it up for him.
That's Alex over there. That's Drew. What's your name again? That's Marshall. That's Jeff. And that's Brandon.
Yeah. The Late Bloomer Band. I wonder if you could play for me.
Oh, you have requests.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if you could play for me a little bit of Mothership Connection.
How about I play a little bit of this and play a Mothership Connection with you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is great.
So this song right here, we talking about Gerard Mays. You're funny. And I tell you, I didn't know this till later, but Paul McCartney had some kind of influence on me with his bass playing. Cause I started playing this song, and I wanted to play it like Paul McCartney been playing. And I don't know, you know, just that feeling, that music that you hear. And this song was written quite some time ago. It's called Rhythm Remains. Let's start. 1, 2, 3. Say, I'll do a dance and I'll give a cheer. 'Cause I know what it took to get here. You brought the light, the shine again. Fighters for God, yes, we're the newborn. Soldiers of peace, crown made of thorn. Oh, it's the screams and the cries, oh, we won't be denied. Whatever it takes, I got to do. Say he had a dream and we watch it come true. Vanish your harmony, vanish your harmony, vanish your harmony. So why not you? We'll break the crowd and we'll cause them all to hush. Call them up with a royal straight hush. Where I first told the name, where I first told his name, where I first told his name, where I first told his name. Dig deep in your finders, dig deep in your finders, dig deep in your finders, dig deep in your finders. Say, I'll do a dance and I'll give a cheer. 'Cause I know what it took to get here. You brought the light, the shine again. Fighters for God, yes, we're the newborn. Soldiers of peace, crowns made of thorn. All with the screams and the cries, oh, it won't be denied. Whatever it takes, I got to do. Say he had a dream and we watch it come true.
Be cool. I wonder if
Bottom of Rhythm Remains, where you go? Real low.
I was gonna have a request.
Play low, play low.
I wonder if you could play for me.
Oh, you have a request.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I have a request. I wonder if you could play for me a little bit of Mothership
I
Connection.
did. How about I play a little bit of this and play a Mothership Connection with you?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll play.
That is great.
So this song right here, we talking about Gerard Mays. You're funny. And I tell you, I didn't know this till later, but Paul McCartney had some kind of influence on me with his bass playing. Cause I started playing this song, and I wanted to play it like Paul McCartney been playing. And I don't know, you know, just that feeling, that music that you hear. And this song was written quite some time ago. It's called Rhythm Remains. Let's start. 1, 2, 3. and let me ride. Swing down the street, sugar, stop and let me ride. I know you want to ride. Do yourself a favor. Let my story be my story. Let me have done the shit that I did. You don't need to go out there and do it. I did it all for you. I doubt if there's even any drugs left, because I did them all. I really doubt that there's any drugs left anywhere, because I did all the drugs in the world. And I'm here to tell you that I ain't doing no damn more.
I wish we could let you run for another hour. Sounds like it just didn't warm up, man. Yeah. But, Joe, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you.
And, folks, I hope you had fun tonight. Got something to drink if you want to.
Brandon, Jeff, Marshall, Drew, Alex.
Just some of the members of the,
Some of the members and some horn players here as well. Melody's here, Zach, Patrick's around here. We're going to take some pictures and stuff, and thank y'all for your support. If you want to take a CD home, I have some t-shirts or whatever if you feel like you want to take me home with you. But if you can't do none of that, one of the things you can do is tell somebody. Tell somebody you heard about Joe Keys and the Late Bloomer Band.